Gather round, ladies and gentlemen. It is Monday. It is the Workday Slacker here, and we're coming at you live from my place of residence. And we're going to talk about staples today. Staples. That's right. We've got, these are normal width, solid metal. These are the best staples you could possibly find in the best stapler. Nah, I'm just playing with you. We're talking about defensive cards, staples of the game. Every player should have a play set of these cards, and I want to tell you where to get them, why they're useful for new players. Hopefully this is helpful for you to know, what sets, what cards, are actually worth getting. And for seasoned vets, I would love to hear you roast me in the comments and tell me why I'm wrong and some of these cards are not that good. So let's get into it. How do you evaluate any of these cards? Well, I have two rules that I just thought of as I was kind of thinking about this video, but it's also some rules that I use in my previous card playing career. Ultimately, what makes cards good is the more that you can do with a single card, the better. And the more points of value, which is a concept we'll talk about later, the more points of value you can cram into a single card, the stronger that card is. So utility and strength. I don't think you need to look very far to understand why utility is a good thing in a card game. All you need to do is look at Crown of Providence or Command and Conquer, or Art of War is probably the most, utilitarian card in the whole game because you can pick 4 different modes of it. So with that lens and these rules, let's take a look at some of the omnipresent defensive cards in the game. These are cards that when you're trying to do your game plan and kill your opponent, they are going to be throwing these at you and they're going to be stopping you from doing that. And it's really annoying because you can't get mad because you're like, they stopped me, they got me. So let's start with the absolute champion, number 1 MVP in the field, the legendary card, Sink Below. No, I'm just kidding. It's not legendary, but it really should be. You're never upset when you see this card in a pack, white border, black border, it doesn't matter. This card was in the first set of the game, Welcome to Wraith, and it is still the most played defense reaction in the game. It is very strong. For 0 cost, you can get 4 block, and you can fix your hand for the next turn. So, in terms of our rules here, the more a single card can do, the better. This card blocks for 4, it's already good, and it costs nothing to play. Already very good. The more points of value, that's the 4. So it's more than 3, therefore it's above rate in this game. A lot of things are around that 3 point. One card can block for 3. If it's a defense reaction, sometimes it blocks for 4. There's a lot going on. But the most important thing really is the more stuff that it can do in a single card. So this not only blocks for 4, but it also fixes up your hand. So excellent card, you'll see it played a lot. Fate Foreseen is pretty much the same card. No one's going to roast you for playing either of these, but the difference is that Fate Foreseen is really more interested in setting up your next hand, or if you're a hero that cares about what's on top of your deck, then that's what that's going to do. So if you're playing a Rhinar deck, as an example, and you want to discard the top card of your next card, you want to make sure it's a 6 attack. This might actually be a better fit than Sink Below. But people make fun of you when you play this over Sink Below. So I'm a cool kid, I just play what the kids play. But the key is 4 block, 0 cost, extremely good cards all around. Now, Sigil of Solace, although it doesn't have a block value, it is I would consider it a 3 block, with a whole bunch of utility being a generic instant. So this costs nothing to play, so at any point I can play this from my hand and I'll gain 3 life. So when you are being threatened with a pummel and you're going to be hit and discarding your hand, or discarding a couple cards or a single card, whatever, hit with an inertia token, any of that stuff, this is really just going to come in handy because you can get it out of your hand right away on your opponent's turn. Doesn't even matter. So if it's in your arsenal, it's also easy to just play right away. I think this is a really awesome card. You're going to see it played a lot. There's a lot of cool uses for it we haven't even seen yet. So these are the three that I recommend everybody have. No matter what deck you play, these are just excellent cards. They're all in white border, so you can get them from the History Pack reprint sets, or you can get them from Welcome to Wraith, these guys, Arcane Rising, and the next few we're going to talk about are also from those sets too. So these are your generic staples, absolutely amazing. We get a little bit more specific. Certain classes will make better use of certain cards. So if we're talking about just big old block turns, we're talking about unmovable. And now the second principle that I wanted to bring back up is the more points of value captured in one card, the stronger. Now for 3 points of resource, you can block for 7, and if you play it from Arsenal, you can block for 8. So that, in one card, is extremely efficient. That's one of the best generic defense reactions. I think it might be the best generic defense reaction. Because you're basically fully blocking your opponent's extremely strong turns with just one card in your arsenal and 1 blue to play it. So I think that this is a great card. If you're looking to play like a more defensive, turtley kind of deck where you really want to piss your opponent off, this is an awesome card. Played in Guardian, you'll have no problem playing it. 3 costs, everything's blue, you'll be fine. Another really interesting card, which has, oh, and this is from Welcome to Wraith as well. This card is new, and it is very interesting because there are some heroes right now that don't let you block with more than 1 card from your hand. Azalea, I think Bravo, all the Guardians will have these big dominated attacks coming at you for 14 damage and dominate. So what can you do? You throw your little 3-block attack in front of it and you die. Welcome, Reinforce the Line. Some crafty players have been adding this to their deck because of all the Azaleas, and this basically makes your 3-block attack all of a sudden block for 7. So you have 2 of these, blocks for 10, really good stuff. It's an instant, so you can pump it up whenever. I just think that's so cool that there are these different ways to think about blocking certain heroes, and it's very clearly built for that. But it still blows my mind that they designed this. So Reinforce the Line, a card from Crucible of War, only in black border. So if you are, are worried about all the dominated attacks coming at you, you might want to grab yourself a play set of the reds, because this is really, it's an interesting card right now. One thing to note is that first bullet point, the more that a single card can do, the better. So this card on its own doesn't really do a lot, right? It's a red pitch, 0 cost, blocks for nothing. But along with another attack card, it actually pumps it up. So the reason why this isn't as good, quote unquote, as a Sink Below is because it needs another card for it to actually reach its full potential. So everything I showed you before, these are just good on their own. They don't need anything else. They don't need nobody else. But Reinforce the Line is just an interesting way to get around that, that dominated kind of reaction. So really cool. I think that's kind of intentional. Another card that is not good today, but I thought would be worth talking about is just to give you guys a little bit of inspiration, you deck builders out there. The Springboard Somersault, another card from Crucible of War. This one is in white border, so you can find it in history packs. But this one is interesting because it's a 4-block if you play it from your arsenal, which is probably where you're going to want to play it. I think a 2-block is pretty bad, but if you play it from arsenal, it's basically another Sink Below or a Fate Foreseen minus the card draw effect. But the actual pitch value means that it's more useful in different scenarios, so you can actually power up and use your attacks, and you don't really need this in games where you might be the aggressor as much. So something interesting to think about. Not saying that is on the same tier, but if there comes a point when you need to look at defense reactions, just having a ton of them in your deck, that's, you could do worse than have that in there. But I'm open to being wrong. And then finally, we've got the kind of the de facto arcane damage defense reaction. It's an instant, but For anyone who's played against arcane heroes like a wizard, you know that, they don't really care if it's your turn, their turn. There's no attacks. It's just, they're just hitting you with all their might all the time. So this really is kind of the go-to defense reaction because it blocks for 4 arcane damage, and it can also potentially heal you if you're below them in life. And it only costs 1. So that extra life kind of brings it up to a 5 point of value, and then the cost brings it back down to a 4. So it's technically on par with our Sink Below in terms of value and cost. Sink Below might give you a little bit more utility because you get to search your hand or dump your hand if it's not very good. So it's kind of cool to think about these things in their actual like base value numbers, but also you just, depending on your matchup, you might have all of these cards or some of these cards in your sideboard, and you would swap them out based on who you're playing. So against a wizard, you take all these out, probably keep your sigils and put your oasis because you want to stay above their 33 damage combo, etc. So just very cool. And then one thing to think about is as new cards get printed, Peace of Mind coming out in Outsiders. This is a new card. It does a lot of the same things as some of these defense reactions. It only blocks damage, like combat damage, not arcane. But it's good to kind of think about what would make this card good. Is it good? Can I write it off? Because this is, even though it blocks 4 for 2, which is bad, the rate is bad, it creates a ponder token. So you will guarantee yourself a card going into the next turn, which is going to be an arsenal card. So that's pretty sweet. You can throw your whole hand at it and know that you're going to have an arsenal for the next turn. So these kinds of things are really fun to evaluate. I'd love to know if you guys have any other, favorite defensive cards that you go for. These are the ones that I thought, this one, you can get out of here, Peace of Mind, you're not very good. These are the ones that I thought new players needed to know about. These 3 really are kind of the holy trifecta of amazing Stay Alive cards, but I'd love to hear what you guys think, if I'm missing anything, and if you're a new player, hopefully you can find yourself some copies of at least these 6 cards because depending on the type of deck you're playing, they're going to be good in all of them. So hope this is helpful, and I hope you guys are having an awesome week and don't work too hard. Peace.